Let's start with an update on the build of fuselage 6 and 7. As I explained last time, these are fuselages that are very much a culmination of everything that we've developed in the program to date. All of the improvements and enhancements that we've developed to the manufacturability, the processes and the core design are embedded into both of these fuselages. They include the brow line modification for improved view angle. They include the exterior lighting integration for our developed lighting clusters. They include the carbon fiber bulkhead integration and all of the mechanical components that need to be embedded in the fuselages to receive the undercarriage systems and of course the cabin door systems. We've also been extensively developing the new versions of all of the cabin doors. So these are the cabin doors that use the bonded assembly, so both a tooled exterior skin, a tooled interior skin, trapping all of the door furniture and bringing those together in a much more production orientated process. So our method for producing doors, as we've discussed, is two tooled skins, so an outer skin and then an inner B-surface skin that carries all of the detail for the locking mechanism and the internal trim door card. So the first plies are down. We're just putting in the receiver for the Swandle handles here. There'll be plies laminated over the top of that, and then this can be bagged and cured in the oven. This is an out of autoclave pre-preg system that we're using for these particular parts. Here in DC3, the guys are doing a lot of the gap and flush and fit and finish and working on the full airframe. This is airframe 6 that's just come back from its first layer of surface treatment and paint production. The exterior has been prepped from a surface point of view, so it's ready to be painted. What you'll see is we've also just offered up the very first trimmed B surface. So this is the rear starboard side door, and that fits just nicely. So the overall form of it's fine. We've got to get that bonded up now. So this is the second structural tail boom that we've produced, and this is the one that's had the most prep work done on it to date. So as I mentioned earlier, all of these composite components that we're showing you at the moment have been manufactured with prototype tools that were very hastily put together. They were all about process development and not about getting the most perfect surface finish. So in order to get these paint ready, the guys have had to do a lot more patchwork, a lot more filling and sanding than you would do in production. We've also been doing a lot of work on the first set of prototype skids that will be sitting on fuselage 7. So essentially these are skids that are structurally and kinematically representative of the skids that we'll use in the flying prototypes. The only difference being there's a little bit more weight to come out of these things before they're ready to go flying. One of the things that is most distinctive about the HX50 is the cowled rotor system and the very carefully aerodynamically cowled pylon and mast. I'm pleased to say that we've delivered this in spades. I'm absolutely over the moon with how this has come out in final design. The production tooling for all of this is currently underway at the moment. The guys are busily finishing the last of the tools to develop all of that cabin top structure, both the cowls that surround the engine and all of the plant and equipment that lives on the top of the fuselage, and also the donut cowling that surrounds the main rotor hub. Over the course of the last month, as you're aware, our main focus has been about preparing to do the combustion system testing. So we finalized the design of the combustion, the core combustion test rig elements. All of those things are now either here or in production at the moment. One of the things that we are doing for the combustion test is using rapid prototyping as an analogy for the casting processes for the casings, just to give us the flexibility to change anything that we need to before we go on to the full-blown gas generator test. We've been doing a lot of NDT and a lot of inspection on our in-house cast superalloy turbine blades for both the gas generator and also the power turbine. And I'm delighted to report that we have now concluded that work and we've passed all the inspection criteria. So Hill Helicopters can now cast inexpensive superalloy turbine blades in-house. We've been casting both power turbine blades and gas generator blades using trees. So part of the process development that we've been doing is looking at the different performance of block molding and shell molding, and we've now got specimens back from the test lab that are used both block molding and also shell molding. We've been doing a lot of development in the process for making the wax trees that you need to be able to hang a load of these turbine blade waxes and create a cavity that allows you to create multiple turbine blades in a single shot. This is the size of your annular combustor. These are conforming outer rings, conforming inner rings. These get grown up to about this height, capped off. There's a bird mouth in the center that feeds into the gas generator turbine nozzle, and then we're good to go. And what you've got here is a small fuel nozzle, and out of this void comes swirling air that smashes the atomized fuel into tiny, tiny particles that give you nice, clean combustion, which is both highly efficient and minimizes the amount of sooting that we get in the engine and ultimately down your tail boom. And here is the very first second generation rotor mast for HX50. So this has got the latest spline detail, the latest connection detail to get the rotor mast connected into the transmission, and all of this new stuff that you can see at the top is the very first components that we've produced for the HX50 rotor system. We're now deep into building the very first HX50 rotor system. The upper and lower hub parts have been produced, as I've just shown you over on the bench. These are the components being machined on the 5-axis, and we've currently just finished this afternoon the very first HX50 blade cuff number 1. So this is a part of the blade, so the rotor blade root connects here, the lag damper lives inside here, the strap pack lives in here, your pitch control rods or your rod ends attach on this lug down at the bottom here, and then the aerodynamic cowling that works into the rotor system fits up against these components here. So you've got the spherical bearing, the swash plate assembly, and all of the detail that the guys build to over here. You've got the collective jack beam, so this is the beam that lifts the whole swash plate system up and provides collective pitch. And then you've got the pitch and roll jack beams as well. So your cyclic is connected to these two, and your collective is connected to this fellow. And then over here, we've got the first 3 swash plate assemblies, so fixed swash plate assembly at the bottom, and then the rotating assembly at the top. And the only thing that we're waiting for at the moment is this fellow that I did show in one of the customer updates, that we've actually machined these. They've all been made, but they're out at the moment being anodized and then PTFE coated, so that we've got the lubrication for the spherical bearing. And then those 3 assemblies, 2 for the aircraft and 1 for a static test rig, have been built. So the guys are providing all the provisions at the moment to get that tail assembly into the duct of the 2 aircraft. So really pleased with how that's coming on. The performance of the tail rotor is incredible. We still maintain directional control with 35 knots of wind from any direction, even up at 10,000 feet. So barring any nasty surprises on test, we should have an awesomely powerful tail rotor. And the only thing we've really got left to do on that is a minor gearbox tweak, which will be picked up early in the new year. So really pleased to see the tail rotor coming together. As we get closer to flight test and we get deeper into our approvals process, we're having increasingly regular meetings and engagement with the regulators. Over the course of the last week, we've had a very successful visit from the engine and transmission specialist at the CAA. We're in safe hands. The approvals process is going as well as can be hoped for where we are in the program. So really pleased with that. The guys were also delighted with the capability that we've developed here at DC1 for bearings, gears, and the other critical components in the engine and drivetrain. So a very successful visit, full stop. We've now developed through a great deal of detail on the IPI. So this is the integrated pilot interface that distills the big stack of black boxes you've got in the center of your cockpit into one single 7-inch screen. The user interface development of that has been refined and optimized now. The menu structure for that has been developed, and Eric is busily implementing that into the software environment ready to be loaded on board the aircraft. The guys have been developing all of the trimming strategies necessary for our cyclic and collective heads. So they look very pretty in renders, but they're not the easiest things in the world to trim, and we've developed out the techniques to be able to trim these. And then below the center, we've got the forward portion of the anti-collision light, and I'll demonstrate the rear version of that in a second. And then we've got the optics for the LED landing lights right here. So if I just pop those on for a second, then all of the electronic and optical design for these has been completed. I'll just knock them off center so I don't kill the camera. All of the heat sinks and the electronics are packaged within the module, and these things will literally light up anything that you want to. They're incredibly powerful, so we've got a little bit of tuning to do with those to get the spread and the level and intensity of those things right, but these things are working a treat. So this is buried into the tip of the ducted fan. So you've got a chrome finishing piece around here. You've got two contributors to your rear navigation light, and then you've got your anti-collision beacon that fits right there. And this thing has got an incredible range of visibility. So if I just knock that on for a second, I'll just turn it away from Milan so it doesn't blind him. But that's all operational. We're using some proxy drivers at the moment rather than the correct airworthy drivers, because this is all about the optical performance. It's all about getting the manufacturing engineering of these clusters right, and then of course getting the heat rejection right for the various environments that these things will be operating in practice. What you can see in the inset picture there is some of the underpinning structure that we're testing at the moment before it gets trimmed and finished off, and that work's going on right now with one of our partners. And then the other thing that we're working on at the moment is all of the interior surface of the aircraft obviously has to be trimmed, so that requires substrates. So we've been designing all of the clip-on substrates for trimming your pillars, your roof linings, your chin beams, and all of the other things that are required to be able to deliver that plush automotive grade interior that you all want. So we've invested in a vast 8.5 meter by 5 meter by 2 meter working envelope gantry mill. This will be the machine that produces all of the production tools. It will produce all of the production patterns. It will trim all of your windows. It'll trim all of your doors. It'll do all of those operations, and it lands here in the UK in January this year. The development facility is now on the critical path, which means we have to consider our production continuity plan. That's what we're doing now. So our next step is essentially to take on a large rented space that will give us all of the room that we need to complete the development and then move seamlessly into production. There's plenty of these facilities available in our area. We're in negotiations with a number of facilities at the moment. We haven't yet decided on the exact site or size, but this will be done before the event in December. We're getting on with this right now, and we're just making sure that we can stick as closely as possible to our declared timelines. So really pleased with how this is coming along. The other thing that this does of course do is it means we can take as long as we need to develop the HQ, and it also means we can consider sites at airports, which make the whole planning issue a lot easier as well. We've now sold 765 X's, 178 C's, giving us a grand total of 943 aircraft. So just 57 to go until that magic 1,000 number. We're in 67 countries. There has never been a better time to join our community. So if you don't want to wait too long for your helicopter, come join us now.